Mayor and Council, I'm here to present the performance numbers for calendar year 2018 for the Mesquite Fire Department, as well as our budget priorities for fiscal year 2020. So I'm going to start off with basically some performance numbers. Calls for service for 2018, and we measure these by calendar year. That's January through December. And in calendar year 2018, we made just over 18,473 responses. That's actually down from 2017. We were down by just a little less than 2% from calendar year 2017. We made 480 fire responses, including 170 structure fires. The structure fires are actually down from 184 the years before, so we're proud of that. We made 13,883 EMS responses, and as you can see from the pie chart, that's pretty much the majority of what we do is EMS services. That's 75.2% of what the Mesquite Fire Department does. We made 1,449 false alarms and 2,661 other responses, and that's just a broad category for things like, well, here lately, for power lines down, hazmat calls, things of those natures. Those are the types of calls that we lump into that. The response goals and our performance standards for our fire, that's the 436 calls that we talked about just a little while ago. We do have an average response time goal and a 90 percentile response time goal for those. And for fire responses, in 2018, the average time from dispatch to the first unit arrived on scene was 5 minutes and 41 seconds. For our 90 percentile, within 8 minutes and 12 seconds, and 90% of the time, with 8 minutes and 12 seconds or below, we arrived on scene, the first arriving unit. Now, these are up just a little bit from 2017. From 2017, basically, our average was 524, so you can see that's up by a little bit, and our 90 percentile was 735. But it's a small grouping in numbers. It's only 436 out of 18,000. So we go to our next slide, EMS calls, which is 75% of what we did. As you can see, our average response time is 5:03, which actually is right in the ballpark of our goal. Our goal is 5 minutes. And our 90th percentile, again, right in the ballpark, 7:07, and our goal is 7 minutes there. And these are actually better than 2017 numbers. We were actually 5:09 for 2017 and 7:13. So we actually bettered these numbers, and these are the majority of our responses. On to calendar year or fiscal year 2020. Some of our capital improvements that we've asked for is a replacement engine for fire engine number 1, $700,000, an ambulance replacement for $282,000, an ambulance remount for $198,000, and we are getting to the end of our remounting program. We decided we would remount those ambulances 3 times. After 3 times, we'd buy a new and then start in that program again after that. SCBA mask washer, this is part of our cancer prevention program. And that's that little thing you see in the corner there, right there. Looks like a dishwasher that you put SCBAs in. And basically, we take those, and this would be mounted. This would be installed at Station 1, and for the SCBA techs to take those and clean them once they come back from the fire. We've gotten the habit of going by Station 1 after a fire and changing those SCBAs out with reserve packs. And basically, the SCBA techs have been cleaning those packs by hand. This is a washer that would actually do that a little bit better and a little bit quicker than what they're doing now. And also replace 3 thermal imaging cameras for a total of $25,000. That's just our normal replacement cycle for those cameras. Some of our operational changes for this year. The biggest change that we've had to make was to come into compliance with new Texas Commission on Fire Prevention standards for our PPE, our personal protective equipment. And this goes back to cancer awareness. We had to bring these in compliance with the new NFPA standards for that. And it was a complete rewrite of 2 SOPs that we had, one on personal protective equipment, the other one personal protective equipment cleaning. So we had to bring those in. It was a pretty big chore, but we got it done. We had to submit those to the state. The state reviewed them, approved them, and we put them in service. So they're basically our rules now. We also were able to get 75 second set of bunker gears issued. This was the 42 that we got in the budget, plus we decided to go ahead, our new recruits, we're just going to go ahead and issue those recruits 2 sets of bunker gear from the start. So they'll have 2 going in and can alternate them. So we were able to get 75 second sets of gear out there, and that's 40% of our operations personnel. Now, part of our emphasis in the operational budget for 2020 is to actually get the rest of the 117 members a second set of gear. So that's a big part of our emphasis going in the operational budget for 2020. part of what we had to do in basically this new rewrite of our SOPs was also come up with a new database to track all this gear. And the gear is basically, you think of a coat, you think of a pant as one set, and they'd have two. But each one of those has an inner liner and an outer shell, and they're tracked separately. They have different serial numbers. So right there, that is 8 sets of things that we have to keep track of just in bunker gear. You put a helmet on that, put 2 hoods on that, 2 sets of gloves, and boots on there. That's a lot for just one person, and then we have over 200 people in our department that are outfitted in bunker gear. So we had to come up with a new database to track it. Our old database, we had left it up to our outside vendor who was cleaning and inspecting our gear to take care of that chore. But with the new standards, we're bringing all that in-house. We were able to use a database that we already had, and my staff, which I love them, they did a great job, come up with a new database. The firefighters are already trained on this database because it has to be available to all the firefighters. Because every time they clean their gear on site, they have to go in and input that cleaning because the issuing of that gear, the cleaning of that gear, the inspection of that gear, the repair of that gear, and the decommissioning of that gear has to be part of that record. So we put together that database. I'm very proud of them for doing so, and so we can get that done and comply with those requirements. You can see here one of our washer extractors that we installed this year. Budgeted that in the middle of the year. We really appreciate that. We basically have them in 6 fire stations now. We had 2 already, and we put 4 new ones in the rest of the stations. Now, Station 4 will get their new one when they go into their new station. We'll talk about that in a minute. So we'll have them available at all the stations so the firefighters can clean their gear on site when they come in from a fire. They can drop their SCBAs off to be cleaned. They go back to the fire station, clean their gear, get in their second set of gear, and we keep their gear clean and rotated that way. That happens to be the extractor fire station number 5. The biggest change is fire station number 4 managing that project. We brought to you a contract for a contractor to come on board in February. We got through the building permit issues, and the construction started in May. We think we can get the substantial completion of the building by spring of 2020. The contractor thinks he can do it by April. I want to go back here if I can. The picture I showed you there was basically the station and that's what I led in last year with my budget, was that big fire truck going to that really small station. That was one of the reasons why we needed a new station. You can see the site plan here. You can see the field here. We're next to fire station number 4. We're going to be constructing the new station. This was our ceremonial groundbreaking that we had. This was the real groundbreaking that we had from an aerial point of view of moving dirt on the site. You can kind of see how the station's going to fit on there now. And this is kind of where we're at now. You can't see them all, but all the piers, all 72 of them have been drilled and are in the ground. They're starting to put the beams in and shore up all the beams to pour the concrete for the remaining of the foundation. They've done a phenomenal job with all the rain that we've had. I've been surprised to see them out there working on some days, but they've got track equipment in there, and they're able to drill and put those piers down and keep the project going. So it's exciting to watch it come out of the ground. I was hoping to have a few more aerial photos for you, but if I'd gotten later in the summer, I would have kept on putting them on there for you. But basically, it's starting to take shape, and they're pretty confident they'll have it ready for us in April. Another thing we're doing right now, we're in the middle of an agency analysis by a consultant, Emergency Services Consulting International. They've done consulting work for the City of Garland Fire Department, Coppell Fire Department, City of Carrollton Fire Department, and recently with Cedar Hill Fire Department. So they're very familiar with this area. We've asked them to come in and take a look at our agency, specifically to focus on facility location. And one of them is we want to look at our current facilities, but we also want to look at the facilities that are out in Kaufman County at Trinity Point. What are we going to need out in that area too, and where do we need it? So basically, they're going to be looking at things. They're looking at what we got currently. They're going to do some projections on demand for us, and basically give us an idea what our future needs are. And they're also going to look at some of our evaluation of response performance goals that we looked at before on the first couple of slides, see if they're still relevant, or we're going to be able to do those going forward. They're going to be looking at our staffing. They're looking at everything from the staffing and the services that we're providing with that staffing, as well as our scheduling. What does our scheduling make sense right now? And they're going to be looking at our apparatus and facilities, see the readiness of both. Right now, basically, we're gathering data for them this month, and hopefully in July, we'll have all that data gathered, and we'll start our meetings with them. They're going to be talking to city staff, they're going to be talking to members of our fire department, our association, to get an idea of our culture and the way we do business. And hopefully by January 2020, we'll have a report for you.
Chief, if you would come back to the culture part of that, and I love this, is great information. When you're out visiting stations and your assistant chiefs are out visiting and you're talking to the different firefighters at all the different stations, what are you seeing, hearing, and observing are the greatest needs, and how transition are we in right now compared to maybe when you were working 20 years ago versus today? Just any thoughts that you have on that as we're looking at this investment?
You know, those conversations, they change over time. Currently, what I'm hearing is apparatus, maintenance of apparatus. Can we get them fixed quicker?
Okay.
Things of that nature is what I'm hearing. Are we replacing them soon enough? I'm hearing a lot of that right now. I'm hearing a lot of, are we going to get ambulance 6 in service? We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes, sir.
Full time. So it changes over time.
Okay.
of what those needs are.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor.
Which gets me to my first budget offer. I've got 3 of them for 2020. The first one is staffing ambulance 6 full-time. Currently, we're running a peak time ambulance at Fire Station 6 from 7 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. And you can see that peak demand chart right there when we get the most runs is during that peak time, and that's where we put that ambulance in service. We're currently running it on an overtime basis, or if we have the staffing to do it with regular staffing, if we don't have too many people off, we'll staff it with just regular time. We hired, last year, it was a 2-phase project. Last year we hired 3 firefighters, or we budgeted for 3 firefighters. We hired them this year. We're asking next year to have the additional 3 that we need to put it in service. We suspect, let me see if I can punch this. It's a $295,800 budget offer that includes the training and uniforms and gear. It'll take us 18 months if we bring them on board at the end of this year, the first of next year, to get them trained out. So we're looking at fiscal year 2021 before we can actually put that ambulance in service full time without using too much overtime. So that's the first budget offer. The second budget offer I have is to increase our paramedic assignment pay, otherwise known as patch pay. This is the pay they get for just having the certification as a paramedic. Currently it's $125 a month. We looked at a survey of about 14 area cities, and that patch pay ranges anywhere from $75 up to $350 a month. It just depends on the agency. What we come out with was an average with somebody with 4 to 8 years of service at about $190 a month, a median of about $200 a month. What we're asking for is to go up 20% to $150 a month for that certification pay. And that's about $56,000 to go up on the certification pay. It's been a long time since we went up on it. Last budget offer, we talked a little bit about the agency analysis with the consultant. We'd like to continue on with that and go into a full master plan. And a full master plan would basically take us into more of the workings in the department, some of the management workings, some of the support services that we have, and analyzing those as well. Going in and determining short, midterm, and long-term goals, putting on a calendar and looking at the finances of the city and determining how to pay for things that we need in the future, and do all those cost projections on all those needs. And that budget offers about $25,000 to continue on with that study, utilizing the data that we've already generated in this year's budget. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Chief. I know we've got several here. The capital improvement budget is something that's on an ongoing basis, is it not? That's part of your rolling, was it 3-year or 5-year plan?
Yes, sir. Actually, it's a 10-year plan now with the city on the capital. Let me get back to that. Sorry.
So that's the things that are fairly somewhat already budgeted. Is that correct?
Well, they're in our capital plan as far as the city goes, as well as the department goes as well. Yes, sir. The engine 1 replacement is on schedule. That's currently on a 12-year schedule. The ambulances are on a 4 to 5-year schedule, depending on which ambulance they are. And of course, we've done the remount program since mid-2000s, and we actually got off-Razor ambulances. We started that remount program, and we went on with a new replacement. We basically, we actually made lemonade out of lemons. We actually had an accident with one of our ambulances and totaled it out. So I decided, well, let's see what we need to do with our next generation of ambulances. Let's look at it as an opportunity to get something different. Let's look at some different things, and we did that, and Ambulance 5 was a result of that. So we think we're going to go forward with that configuration of Ambulance 5 in the future. A little bit larger ambulance, a couple feet longer, a little taller.
Also, you mentioned in here, thank you, the second set of gear and saying trying to get it, but there's nothing in here in regards to that?
No, that's in our operational budget. That's an ongoing document. We're still working on that.
Okay.
Mayor, just to be clear, I think we're trying to include that in the city's baseline budget recommendation. So
the gear?
Yeah.
Good.
Chief's put that in his baseline budget.
Yeah, we're working with Meyer and Finance on
Second set
that.
of bunker
The second
gear.
set of bunker gear.
Yeah.
We're trying to get
That was
there.
one of my questions,
Yeah.
so
Trying to
I
get
think
there.
they answered that. Three full-time up at 6. Yeah, at least that amount for the certification pay. At least that amount for the certification pay, so I'm good with that. Two other, I guess, longer term, you have a master plan study. One is obviously another station in the south on Interstate 20, perhaps on Kaufman County, 741 intersection, or even 740. I'm hoping that this master plan addresses that, identifies sites for that, because even though we may not have specific bond money for that, we do have developments that may help share costs for that, or may even donate sites or locations. And so I think it's important for this master study to identify those key locations, so that if there's a development, for example, on a corner, and they have an extra 15 acres or 20 acres to put in a station next to a water tower, for example, I'd like to capture that identification with this study. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, and actually that is part of our agency analysis. That's something we were putting emphasis on that first part of the study, because we knew that we needed that sooner rather than later.
And finally, I know this is a longer-term issue. I don't expect this to be immediately addressed, but moving towards 4-person fire trucks instead of 3. We have a trend around the country where 4 is the trend, and so I'd like the master plan to identify that as a potential goal and see what that would take as well.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Councilman Archer?
I would concur with those goals that we should look at, Councilman Miklos espoused, and I want to just say, I need to say, I'm very grateful for what I saw personally Sunday before this last one, when things got pretty rough. I saw a lot of your folks out there, not just the engines, not just the paramedics, but I don't know if they were deputy chiefs or what, but individual trucks just all over the place helping people in this town in need. And I am very grateful, and this budget's worthy of our best when you see things like that. So please pass on, I think I speak for all of us, our gratitude for the wonderful work done Sunday before last.
Well, I also have to give thanks to our communications department and the police department. I went up to communications and kind of helped out a little bit up there, but they're phenomenal in processing all those runs and getting them out in an efficient manner to the units. And we did bring in a few extra people to help us out with that, because we had quite a few power lines down in the city, as we all know. And we wanted to go out there and make sure that the citizens were as safe as possible. And we got encore on them as fast as we could.
Councilman Alderman?
I'd like to echo that as well, the work of the fire, the work of the police together. I know we were looking yesterday at the possibility, again, they were threatening with the high winds and all that, but just to know that the fire and police are ready and they're out there working, and appreciate that so much. I wanted to ask about the development of bilingual pay for the firefighters, and bringing in more firefighters that are bilingual for our demographics in the city of Mesquite.
Currently,
Are we moving?
Currently, I think the police department, they are eligible for bilingual pay. And there was a specific reason for that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it had something to do with records of management that they were having to do at the time. The fire department wasn't included in that process. We do have some members, not many, but a few members that would be eligible for that pay currently. And I'd have to get with Chief Cato on that. I think there's a couple levels of that pay as well in there. Yes, there's a couple levels of that pay that they would have to test for. And I think HR's, have those tests available, and it could be extended to the fire department if you wish.
Okay, great, thank you. I want to see us to continue to move in that direction, because I know with our demographics changing and all that we continue to reach out to our areas we're recruiting to bring in bilinguals as well. So, thank you.
Mr. Alderman, just to further address that, we've asked Budget and HR to evaluate bilingual pay throughout the organization. So not just fire department, throughout the entire organization.
Even better.
It was when I was a captain, I had my driver engineer he could speak Spanish, and one of my firefighters could sign. And I used both of them a whole lot, and that was a long time ago, to communicate with our citizens. So it is important.
Thank you, Chief. Good job.
Thank you.